The morning started like any other on Kepler Station, humanity's furthest outpost in the Andromeda sector. Commander Sarah Chen sipped her synthetic coffee while reviewing patrol reports, unaware that this day would reshape the galaxy's understanding of human capabilities forever. The first sign of trouble came through the quantum communication array at 0847 hours. Lieutenant Marcus Webb's face appeared on the holographic display, his usual calm demeanor replaced by barely controlled panic. His patrol ship, the Nightingale, had been conducting routine surveillance near the outer rim when long-range scanners detected something impossible. "Commander, you need to see this!" Webb's voice crackled through the interference. "We've got approximately 1,200 Imperial vessels approaching our sector. They're flying battle formations I've never seen before." Sarah's coffee cup clattered against the desk. The Zephyrian Empire had been humanity's greatest threat for decades, but they had never mounted an assault of this magnitude. Their previous raids involved perhaps 50 ships at most. 1,200 represented a fleet capable of glassing entire worlds. "Are you certain of those numbers, Lieutenant?" Sarah asked, though she could see the sensor data streaming across her secondary display. The readings were unmistakable. "Confirmed, ma'am. Multiple dreadnoughts, carrier vessels, and what appears to be their new Devastator-class battleships. Intelligence reports suggested they only had 3 of those in existence." Sarah's mind raced through tactical possibilities, each more hopeless than the last. Kepler Station housed barely 2,000 civilians and researchers. Their defensive fleet consisted of 18 patrol craft and 4 aging destroyers. Even the mighty Earth Defense Force would struggle against numbers like these. "Transmission incoming from the Imperial Fleet," Communications Officer Reynolds announced. "They're demanding to speak with the sector commander." The main display flickered, revealing the imposing figure of Admiral Vextar, the Empire's most ruthless military leader. His reptilian features bore the ritual scars of countless victories, and his golden eyes held the cold confidence of someone who had never known defeat. "Human Commander," Vextar's voice resonated through the bridge, each word dripping with contempt. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Imperial Third Fleet. Your pathetic species has existed in our galaxy far too long. Today, we begin the systematic elimination of every human world, starting with this insignificant outpost." Sarah stepped forward, maintaining her composure despite the terror gripping her heart. "Admiral Vextar, this is Commander Sarah Chen. Kepler Station is a research facility with no military significance. We have civilian populations here." The Admiral's laugh was like grinding metal. "Your civilians interest me not. However, I am feeling generous today. Surrender now, and I will grant them quick deaths rather than the prolonged suffering my warriors prefer." "We cannot surrender innocent lives to you," Sarah replied firmly. "If you want this station, you'll have to take it." "As you wish, human. Your bravery is admirable if futile. You have 1 standard hour to prepare for your destruction." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Sarah immediately activated the station's emergency protocols. Civilian evacuation ships launched toward the nearest inhabited systems, though most would never make it past the Imperial blockade. The defense fleet formed up around the station, their captains knowing they were about to make their final stand. In the depths of the station, Dr. Elizabeth Hawthorne worked frantically in her archaeological laboratory. For the past 3 years, she had been studying artifacts recovered from ancient human settlements in the Outer Rim. Most of her colleagues dismissed these finds as primitive tools and decorative items, but Elizabeth had discovered something extraordinary hidden within their quantum signatures. The artifacts weren't primitive at all. They were components of something far more advanced than anything humanity currently possessed. More unsettling still, carbon dating revealed they were over 10,000 years old, predating known human space travel by millennia. As evacuation alarms wailed throughout the station, Elizabeth made a desperate decision. She had been secretly assembling the artifacts based on quantum resonance patterns she had decoded from their molecular structure. The partially completed device sat on her workbench, its purpose still unclear, but its energy readings unlike anything in human science. "Dr. Hawthorne, you need to evacuate immediately," her assistant Jamie called from the laboratory entrance. "The transport ships are launching in 10 minutes. Elizabeth looked up from her work, her eyes bright with desperate hope. "Jamie, what if these artifacts aren't just archaeological curiosities? What if they're pieces of something that could help us?" "Help us what? Fight off 1,200 Imperial ships? Elizabeth, be reasonable. Whatever that thing is, it's not going to save us from certain death." But Elizabeth had noticed something strange. As the Imperial fleet drew closer, the assembled artifacts had begun to emit a faint harmonic resonance. The quantum patterns were shifting, as if responding to some external stimulus. More remarkably, the incomplete device was somehow completing itself, new components materializing from quantum foam, as if following some predetermined blueprint. Meanwhile, on the bridge, Sarah watched helplessly as her defensive fleet took positions around the station. Captain Rodriguez of the destroyer Valiant reported ready, his voice steady despite the impossible odds. The 3 other destroyer captains echoed their readiness, each knowing they commanded the last line of defense for 2,000 innocent lives. "Imperial fleet is accelerating toward our position," Sensor Operator Chen announced. "They'll be in weapons range in 37 minutes. Sarah authorized the transmission of humanity's final message to Earth Command, a simple report detailing their situation and a request that their sacrifice be remembered. She had no illusions about survival. The best they could hope for was to buy the evacuation transports a few additional minutes. "Commander," Lieutenant Webb's voice came through the comm system again, "long-range scanners are detecting some kind of energy buildup from inside the station. It's unlike anything in our databases." Sarah frowned. "What kind of energy buildup?" "Unknown classification, ma'am. It's coming from the archaeological section. The quantum signature is... well, it's impossible. The energy levels suggest technology far beyond our current capabilities." Dr. Hawthorne's voice suddenly crackled through the internal communication system. "Commander Chen, this is Dr. Hawthorne in Archaeological Lab 7. I need to speak with you immediately. I think I may have found something that could help us." Sarah glanced at her tactical display. The Imperial fleet was still 20 minutes away. "Dr. Hawthorne, you should be on an evacuation transport." "Commander, please. I've been working with artifacts that predate our known history. They're not just ancient human tools. They're components of something much more advanced, and it's reacting to the Imperial presence." Against her better judgment, Sarah found herself intrigued. Dr. Hawthorne had always been one of the station's most brilliant researchers, and her work on quantum archaeology had produced several significant breakthroughs. "What exactly are you suggesting, Doctor?" "I'm suggesting that our ancestors may have been far more advanced than we ever imagined, and they may have left us tools to defend ourselves." Sarah made a command decision that would change everything. "Security team to Archaeological Lab 7. Escort Dr. Hawthorne to the bridge immediately, along with whatever she's been working on." As the Imperial fleet drew inexorably closer, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's darkest hour was about to reveal secrets that had been hidden for millennia. The artifacts Dr. Hawthorne had discovered might be their only hope, but they represented something that challenged everything humanity thought it knew about its own history. Admiral Vextar stood on his flagship's command deck, savoring the approaching moment of victory. He had spent decades studying human military capabilities, and their weakness was absolute. Their ships were crude, their weapons primitive, their tactics predictable. This would be the beginning of humanity's end, and his name would be remembered forever as the one who started their extinction. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting unusual energy readings from the human station. Should we investigate?" Vextar dismissed the concern with a wave of his clawed hand. "Humans are desperate. They're probably overloading their reactors in a futile attempt to increase their weapons power. It changes nothing. Prepare the fleet for total bombardment. I want that station reduced to cosmic dust. But something nagged at the Admiral's consciousness. In all his years of warfare, he had learned to trust his instincts, and those instincts were now whispering that something was different about this engagement. The energy readings his sensors detected weren't consistent with human reactor overloads. They were something else entirely. On Kepler Station, Dr. Hawthorne arrived on the bridge, carrying a device that defied easy description. It appeared to be constructed from materials that shifted between states of matter, its surface reflecting light in impossible ways. As she set it down on the bridge's central console, every piece of electronic equipment in the vicinity began displaying readings that made no sense according to known physics. "Dr. Hawthorne," Sarah said carefully, "what exactly is that thing?" Elizabeth's eyes were bright with excitement and terror. "Commander, I believe this is a prototype of some kind of defensive system created by ancient humans. The quantum signatures suggest it was designed specifically to counter energy weapons and exotic matter manipulation of the type used by advanced alien civilizations." "Ancient humans?" Sarah stared at the device. "Our records show that 10,000 years ago, humanity hadn't even achieved reliable spaceflight." "That's what I thought too. But these artifacts tell a different story. They suggest that humanity once possessed technology that made our current capabilities look primitive by comparison, and this prototype seems to be designed specifically for situations like this one." The device suddenly pulsed with brilliant light, and every display on the bridge showed the same message in ancient human script that somehow everyone present could understand. "Prototype defensive system activated. Threat assessment, extreme. Initiating protective protocols." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Dr. Hawthorne, are you telling me that our ancestors once possessed technology advanced enough to fight off something like the Imperial fleet?" Elizabeth nodded slowly. "Commander, I think our ancestors may have faced threats that made the Zephyrian Empire look like children playing with toys, and I think they built this prototype to protect their descendants from those same threats." As the Imperial fleet entered weapons range, the mysterious device began to emit a low, harmonic resonance that seemed to vibrate through the very fabric of space-time. Every human on the station felt it in their bones, a sound that awakened something primal and ancient in their genetic memory. Admiral Vexitar's confidence began to waver as his sensors detected energy readings that exceeded anything in Imperial science. The small human outpost was generating power levels that rivaled his entire fleet's combined output. More disturbing still, the energy patterns were unlike anything in Zephyrian databases, suggesting technology that predated their own advanced civilization. "All ships, maintain formation," Vexitar commanded, though uncertainty crept into his voice. "Prepare for immediate bombardment of the human station. Whatever they're attempting, we'll destroy them before they can complete it." But deep in his warrior's heart, Admiral Vexitar began to suspect that he had awakened something that should have remained sleeping. The energy readings climbing on his displays suggested that humanity's reputation for being a primitive, harmless species might be the galaxy's greatest misconception. On Kepler Station, the prototype device continued its mysterious activation sequence, and Dr. Hawthorne realized that their ancestors had left them more than just archaeological artifacts. They had left them a weapon designed to remind the galaxy why humanity had once been feared among the stars. The battle was about to begin, but neither side yet understood that it would end with the revelation of humanity's true heritage and the resurrection of powers that had been dormant for 10 millennia. The prototype device pulsed with increasing intensity, its impossible geometry shifting as ancient systems came online after millennia of dormancy. Dr. Hawthorne watched in fascination as holographic displays materialized around the device, showing star charts and tactical information in languages that predated known human civilization by thousands of years. "Commander," Lieutenant Webb's voice carried new urgency, "the Imperial fleet has broken into attack formation. They're targeting our defensive ships first." Sarah watched the tactical display as Admiral Vextar's massive armada spread across the starfield like a plague of metallic locusts. Each Imperial ship was larger and more heavily armed than humanity's finest vessels. The Zephyrian Empire had built their reputation on overwhelming firepower and advanced shielding technology that made their ships nearly indestructible. "All defensive units, engage at maximum range," Sarah ordered, knowing the command would likely be the last she ever gave. "Make every shot count." The destroyer Valiant opened fire first, its plasma cannons sending brilliant streaks of energy toward the nearest Imperial cruiser. The shots struck the alien vessel's shields and dissipated harmlessly, like raindrops against armored glass. Return fire came immediately. Lance beams of exotic energy that carved through the Valiant's hull as if it were constructed of tissue paper. Captain Rodriguez's final transmission was cut short as his ship exploded in a brilliant fireball, taking all hands with it. The other three destroyers shared similar fates within minutes, their sacrifice buying precious seconds of time while achieving absolutely nothing against the Imperial war machine. Admiral Vextar observed the pathetic human resistance with satisfaction. "As expected, their weapons cannot even scratch our shields. Continue the advance. Destroy the remaining patrol craft and prepare to bombard the station." But his tactical officer's report made him pause. "Admiral, the energy readings from the human station are still climbing. Whatever they're powering up, it's drawing more energy than our entire fleet generates." Vextar studied the sensor displays with growing unease. The power signatures defied Zephyrian science. No civilization in the known galaxy possessed technology capable of such energy manipulation. "Maintain attack formation but deploy additional shield reinforcement. I want to know what these humans are planning." On the bridge of Kepler Station, the prototype device had transformed into something that resembled a crystalline command center from humanity's forgotten past. Holographic interfaces surrounded Dr. Hawthorne as she desperately tried to understand the ancient technology. "The system is scanning the Imperial fleet," she reported to Commander Chen. "It's analyzing their weapons, shields, and tactical formations. But, Commander, this technology is so far beyond anything we understand. It's like watching a quantum computer solve problems that haven't been invented yet." The prototype suddenly projected a three-dimensional battlefield display that showed every Imperial ship with perfect accuracy, including detailed analyses of their weaknesses and tactical vulnerabilities. Text in ancient human script flowed across the display, and somehow everyone on the bridge could understand its meaning. "Threat analysis complete. Enemy vessels utilize primitive energy manipulation and basic dimensional shielding, deploying countermeasures based on archived tactical protocols." A new voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect modern English despite clearly originating from the ancient device. The voice belonged to a human male, but carried an authority that suggested vast knowledge and experience. "I am the Aegis Protocol, designated defender of human space and guardian of Earth's children. I have been dormant for 9,147 standard years, awaiting activation in humanity's hour of greatest need. The time has come to remind the galaxy why our species once ruled the stars." Commander Chen stared at the device in shock. "Who are you? What are you?" "I am the consciousness of Admiral Marcus Thorne, first commander of Earth's Deep Space Defense Initiative. My biological form expired millennia ago, but my knowledge and strategic experience were preserved within this prototype system. I have watched civilizations rise and fall across the galaxy, waiting for the moment when humanity would face extinction." The prototype began to extend mechanical appendages that interfaced directly with Kepler Station's systems. Within seconds, every piece of technology on the station was operating at peak efficiency. Life support systems stabilized, power distribution optimized, and defensive shields that had been rated for asteroid impacts suddenly strengthened to levels that defied physics. "Admiral Thorne," Sarah said carefully, "what exactly are you capable of?" "That depends on what threatens my people," the voice replied. "But these Zephyrian ships represent technology that is approximately 8,000 years behind what humanity possessed during my era. Observe." The prototype device projected a beam of coherent energy toward the approaching Imperial fleet. The beam appeared subtle, almost elegant compared to the flashy weapons both sides had been using. When it struck the lead Imperial dreadnought, the massive warship's shields didn't just fail, they reversed polarity and began draining energy from the ship's own reactors. Admiral Vextar watched in horror as his flagship's power systems spiraled into cascade failure. "Report! What happened to our shields?" "Unknown, Admiral. The human weapon somehow inverted our defensive matrix. We're showing total system failures across primary and secondary power grids." Before Vextar could respond, the disabled dreadnought began to tear itself apart from the inside. Its own weapons turned inward, its reactor containment fields destabilized, and its artificial gravity generators created a crushing implosion that reduced the mighty warship to cosmic debris in seconds. "Impossible," Vextar whispered. His most powerful ship had been destroyed by what appeared to be a minor energy projection from a primitive human outpost. The Aegis Protocol's voice carried a note of grim satisfaction. "The Zephyrians rely too heavily on energy-based systems. Their entire technological philosophy makes them vulnerable to quantum manipulation attacks. Shall I demonstrate further?" Sarah found herself both thrilled and terrified by the ancient technology's capabilities. "Admiral Thorne, how many ships can you disable?" "All of them, if necessary. But perhaps a more targeted demonstration would be more educational." The prototype selected 12 Imperial cruisers from the advancing fleet and targeted them simultaneously. This time, instead of destroying them outright, it simply shut down their weapon systems while leaving everything else functional. 12 of the Empire's most advanced warships suddenly found themselves defenseless, floating helplessly as their crews scrambled to understand what had happened. Admiral Vextar's tactical displays showed readings that made no sense. "How are they penetrating our systems? Our quantum encryption is unbreakable." His chief science officer, a brilliant Zephyrian named Kexmol, studied the sensor data with growing amazement. "Admiral, the human weapon isn't penetrating our encryption. It's operating on quantum principles that predate our encryption methods. This technology is so advanced that our security measures are irrelevant to it." The revelation hit Vextar like a physical blow. The Zephyrian Empire prided itself on technological superiority over all other species. Their conquest of dozens of civilizations had been possible because no other race possessed weapons or defenses capable of matching Imperial capabilities. "How can primitive humans possess technology superior to our own?" Kexmol's answer shook the Admiral to his core. "Sir, I don't think these humans are primitive at all. I think they've been hiding their true capabilities from the galaxy. The energy signatures we're detecting suggest technology that exceeds our own by orders of magnitude." On Kepler Station, Dr. Hawthorne was accessing data files that the Aegis Protocol had unlocked from its ancient memory banks. What she discovered challenged everything humanity believed about its own history. "Commander, according to these records, humanity once controlled a significant portion of this galaxy. We had colonies, trade routes, and defensive installations across hundreds of systems. But something happened approximately 10,000 years ago that forced a complete withdrawal to the Sol system." Admiral Thorne's voice carried notes of sadness and regret. "The Great Retreat, My people faced an enemy that threatened not just human civilization, but all sentient life in the galaxy. We were forced to abandon our outer territories and concentrate our remaining population on Earth while deploying defensive measures to hide our true capabilities. What kind of enemy could force humanity to abandon entire stellar regions? Sarah asked. That is classified information that died with my generation. What matters now is that the immediate threat to my people is being eliminated. These Zephyrians will learn that humanity is not defenseless prey. The prototype began deploying additional countermeasures against the Imperial fleet. Several enemy ships found their navigation systems reprogrammed, causing them to collide with each other in spectacular explosions. Others experienced reactor overloads that forced emergency evacuations. Still others simply powered down completely, their crews trapped in disabled vessels that refused to respond to any commands. Admiral Vexitar realized that his mighty armada was being systematically neutralized by technology he couldn't comprehend. All ships, withdraw to minimum engagement range, deploy quantum torpedoes, and prepare for saturated bombardment of the human station. But when the Imperial fleet fired their most powerful weapons, the energy torpedoes simply vanished before reaching their target. The Aegis Protocol had created some kind of spatial distortion that redirected the attacks into empty space. Your weapons are crude applications of principles my people mastered eons ago. Admiral Thorne's voice carried a note of contempt. Quantum torpedoes, plasma lances, exotic matter projectiles. We developed countermeasures for these technologies before your species achieved space flight. Dr. Hawthorne discovered more disturbing information in the ancient files. Commander, according to these records, humanity didn't just retreat 10,000 years ago. We deliberately suppressed our own technology and allowed our civilization to forget its true capabilities. The entire human population was subjected to some kind of controlled regression that erased our advanced knowledge. Why would we do such a thing? Sarah asked. Admiral Thorne answered with obvious reluctance. Because advanced technology attracted the attention of entities that viewed any sufficiently developed civilization as a threat to be eliminated. We chose to appear primitive rather than face complete extinction. The implications were staggering. Every human alive believed their species had slowly evolved from primitive Earth origins to their current level of technology. But the truth was that humanity had once been one of the galaxy's dominant civilizations, and they had deliberately forgotten their own power to survive an unimaginable threat. Admiral, Sarah said carefully, if we were once so advanced, why didn't we prepare better for situations like this? Why is there only one prototype defense system? There were dozens of prototype installations throughout human space, Thorne replied. Most were destroyed or lost during the Great Retreat. This unit survived because it was hidden in a location that enemy forces never discovered. I have been waiting 10 millennia for my people to face extinction so that I could fulfill my final duty. The battle continued to rage around them, but the Imperial fleet was clearly losing. Admiral Vextar's 1,200 ships were being systematically disabled by technology they couldn't understand or counter. The Zephyrian Empire's most powerful military force was being defeated by a single ancient human defense system. But Admiral Thorne had only begun to demonstrate the true power of humanity's lost legacy. The Aegis Protocol was preparing to show the galaxy something that had been hidden since the dawn of recorded history, the full might of humanity's forgotten golden age. As Imperial ships continued to fall victim to impossible attacks, Admiral Vextar began to understand that he had not encountered a primitive species defending itself with desperate measures. He had awakened something ancient and powerful that had been sleeping among the stars, waiting for the right moment to remind the galaxy why humanity had once been feared across all known space. The prototype's next demonstration would leave no doubt about humanity's true nature, and the galaxy would never again make the mistake of considering humans to be weak or helpless prey. Admiral Vextar stared at his tactical displays in growing desperation as his mighty armada crumbled before his eyes. 73 ships had been destroyed or disabled in the past hour, and the human weapon showed no signs of weakening. Worse still, his remaining vessels were reporting system failures that spread like a plague through his fleet. "Admiral," his communications officer reported with barely controlled panic. "We're receiving surrender requests from 47 ship commanders. They're reporting that their vessels are no longer under their control." The truth was even more disturbing than surrender. The Aegis Protocol hadn't just disabled those ships. It had reprogrammed their basic operating systems. Imperial vessels were now broadcasting messages of peace, while their weapons systems refused to target human positions. The ancient human technology was rewriting Zephyrian computer codes as easily as a human child might rearrange building blocks. On Kepler Station, Dr. Hawthorne continued to explore the vast databases that Admiral Thorne's consciousness had unlocked. Each discovery painted a more incredible picture of humanity's hidden past. "Commander, I'm finding records of human settlements in the Andromeda Galaxy, the Magellanic Clouds, and even other galactic clusters. According to these files, at our peak, humanity controlled territory spanning multiple galaxies." Sarah could barely comprehend the implications. Multiple galaxies? That would require technology beyond anything currently known to science. Admiral Thorne's voice carried the weight of lost ages. "Faster-than-light communication across galactic distances, matter transmission systems, planetary engineering on a scale that makes terraforming look primitive. My people built wonders that current human civilization couldn't imagine." The prototype device suddenly expanded, mechanical components flowing like liquid metal as it assumed its full configuration. What had begun as a small archaeological artifact was now revealed as merely the core of a much larger system. The ancient machine was rebuilding itself using materials harvested from the quantum vacuum, growing into something that resembled a cathedral made of living light. "What's happening?" Sarah asked, as the bridge around them transformed to accommodate the expanding device. "The Aegis Protocol is assuming its full operational parameters," Thorne explained. "I've been operating at minimal capacity to avoid detection. Now that the secret is revealed, there's no reason to hold back." New holographic displays materialized throughout the bridge, showing not just the local battle but the positions of every military vessel within 50 light-years. Imperial forces, human colonies, alien trading posts, and mysterious entities that refused classification, all were mapped with perfect accuracy. "The full network is coming online," Thorne continued. "For 10,000 years, humanity has hidden 37 prototype installations throughout the galaxy. Each one has been monitoring, learning, and preparing. The time for concealment is over." Admiral Vextar received reports that chilled his warriors' blood. Imperial listening posts throughout the sector were detecting massive energy signatures from systems that had shown no advanced activity for millennia. Ancient human installations were awakening across hundreds of light-years, each one broadcasting the same message in perfect Zephyrian. "By authority of the Human Defense Consortium, all Imperial vessels in designated human space are ordered to withdraw immediately. Continued hostile action will result in the application of extreme defensive measures." Vextar's chief science officer brought news that shattered the Admiral's understanding of galactic politics. "Sir, we're detecting similar energy signatures from the direction of the Centauri Alliance, the Rigel Confederacy, and the Vegan Trade Union. These aren't just human installations. They're spread throughout territories belonging to dozens of different species." The revelation hit the Imperial command structure like a tsunami. Humanity hadn't just been hiding their own capabilities. They had been secretly protecting other civilizations while maintaining the appearance of being a minor, harmless species. "How long have they been watching us?" Vextar whispered. His answer came directly from the Aegis Protocol as it established a communication link with every Imperial ship simultaneously. Admiral Thorne's voice spoke with the authority of ages. Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire, you have made a grave error. Humanity withdrew from galactic prominence not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. We learned that unchecked aggression eventually attracts the attention of forces that threaten all sentient life. What forces? Vextar demanded. Show me these enemies that supposedly drove your mighty empire into hiding. The response came in the form of a holographic projection that appeared on every Imperial bridge simultaneously. The image showed space itself being consumed by something that defied description. A darkness that wasn't merely the absence of light, but the absence of existence itself. Where it touched, stars didn't just die. They were removed from reality as if they had never been. The Devourers, Thorn's voice carried 10 millennia of haunted memory. Entities from outside our dimensional framework that view consciousness itself as a form of cosmic contamination. They detect advanced civilizations through their quantum signatures and eliminate them completely. The Imperial fleet watched in horror as the projection showed entire solar systems being systematically erased. Planets, stars, even the space between them simply ceased to exist as the Devourers passed through. We fought them for centuries, Thorn continued. Every advanced civilization in 3 galactic clusters united against the threat. The war cost trillions of lives and nearly destroyed reality itself in several regions. Humanity's retreat wasn't surrender, it was a strategic withdrawal to implement a defense that required the cooperation of every sentient species in the galaxy. Dr. Hawthorne accessed files that revealed the true scope of humanity's sacrifice. Commander, we didn't just abandon our territory. We secretly established monitoring and defense systems throughout the galaxy while helping other species advance their own capabilities. The entire galactic political structure has been carefully managed to prevent any single civilization from becoming powerful enough to attract the Devourer's attention. The Zephyrian Empire's aggressive expansion had been precisely the kind of activity that humanity had spent 10,000 years preventing. Their conquest of dozens of worlds and their advancing technology were creating the exact quantum signatures that attracted the Devourers. Admiral Vextar suddenly understood why his fleet was being systematically destroyed. You're not defending yourselves from us. You're protecting the entire galaxy from what our actions might attract. Correct, Thorn replied. The Zephyrian Empire's military expansion has already generated quantum disturbances that extend beyond this galactic region. Our long-range sensors indicate Devourer scouts approaching from the galactic rim. Your conquest spree has potentially doomed every living being in 3-star clusters. The Imperial Admiral felt the weight of cosmic responsibility crushing down on him. His life's work of building the Empire's military might had inadvertently threatened the existence of all sentient life. What do you want from us? Immediate cessation of all military activities beyond your home system, dismantling of your Devastator-class vessels and your planet-killing weapons. Most importantly, cooperation in implementing the same defensive measures that have kept the galaxy safe for 10 millennia. To demonstrate the consequences of refusal, the Aegis Protocol activated additional capabilities that had remained dormant throughout the battle. The space around Kepler Station began to fold in impossible ways as the ancient machine manipulated the fundamental forces of reality. What had been a localized battle between Imperial ships and a human outpost suddenly became something far more significant. The prototype was establishing a connection with every other hidden installation throughout the galaxy, creating a defensive network that spanned millions of light-years. Behold the true defense grid, Thorn's voice resonated with quiet pride. 37 installations, each one capable of manipulating space-time itself. Hidden among dozens of different species, disguised as archaeological artifacts or natural phenomena, but all connected through quantum entanglement communications that operate outside normal space-time. The effect was magnificent and terrifying. Reality itself began to shift around the Imperial fleet as the prototype demonstrated its ability to alter the basic laws of physics within a defined area. Ships that tried to flee found themselves traveling in circles as space curved back on itself. Weapons that were fired simply vanished into pocket dimensions where they could harm nothing. "This is impossible," Vextar breathed. "No civilization can possess technology that manipulates the fundamental forces of the universe." "We developed it out of necessity," Thorn replied. "When facing enemies that exist outside normal reality, conventional weapons become useless. We learn to fight the devourers on their own terms, using technology that operates beyond the boundaries of standard physics." But the greatest revelation was yet to come. As the defense grid reached full activation, it became clear that humanity's influence extended far beyond what anyone had imagined. Species that had been considered completely independent were revealed to be part of a vast cooperative network that had been secretly guided by human strategic planning for millennia. The Centauri Alliance's defensive capabilities suddenly increased by several orders of magnitude as hidden human installations came online within their territory. The Rigel Confederacy's trade routes were protected by cloaked monitoring stations that had been watching for threats for thousands of years. Even the isolationist vegan trade union was part of the network, their famous neutrality maintained by human diplomatic efforts that operated through intermediaries and puppet organizations. "You've been manipulating galactic politics for 10,000 years, Admiral Vextar accused. "We've been protecting galactic politics for 10,000 years, Thorn corrected. "Every war prevented, every peaceful resolution negotiated, every technological breakthrough that was guided away from dangerous applications, humanity has been working behind the scenes to maintain the delicate balance that keeps the devourers unaware of our continued existence." The scope of humanity's hidden activities was staggering. Archaeological evidence was fabricated to hide the true age of various civilizations. Scientific research was quietly guided away from discoveries that might attract unwanted attention. Political movements were supported or opposed based on their likelihood of creating the kind of massive conflicts that generated detectable quantum signatures. Dr. Hawthorne discovered files detailing humanity's greatest achievement, not the technology that could manipulate reality itself, but the patient, careful work of nurturing dozens of different species toward peaceful coexistence while maintaining the illusion that humans were just another minor civilization struggling to survive. "We've been gardeners," she whispered in amazement. "For 10,000 years, humanity has been gardening the entire galaxy." The Imperial fleet found itself in an impossible position. They were outgunned by technology that exceeded their understanding, surrounded by a defensive network that spanned the galaxy, and facing the revelation that their entire civilization's development had been secretly influenced by the species they had come to destroy. Admiral Vextar made the only decision that could save his people. "Imperial fleet, stand down all weapons. Prepare for unconditional surrender." But Admiral Thorn had different plans. "Surrender is unnecessary, Admiral. What we require is cooperation. The Devourer scouts will arrive in approximately 18 months. Every ship, every weapon, every strategic mind in the galaxy will be needed for the defense." The ancient human consciousness began transmitting technical specifications to every Imperial vessel: advanced shield generators, quantum communication arrays, reality manipulation weapons, technology that would transform the Zephyrian military into something capable of fighting entities from outside normal space-time. "You're sharing your technology with us?" Vextar couldn't hide his amazement. "After we came here to destroy your people?" "You came here because you didn't understand the true situation," Thorn replied. "Now that you do understand, you become part of the solution. Humanity learned long ago that the galaxy's survival requires the cooperation of all sentient species." The transformation began immediately. Imperial ships that had been designed for conquest were modified for defense against cosmic threats. Zephyrian warriors who had trained to subjugate other species began learning to protect them. The mighty armada that had come to destroy Kepler Station became the core of a defensive fleet that would help guard the galaxy. Commander Sarah Chen watched the miraculous transformation with a mixture of awe and trepidation. Admiral Thorne, what happens now that humanity's secret is revealed? Now we return to what we were always meant to be, the ancient consciousness replied. Guardians of the galaxy, protectors of sentient life, and the first line of defense against threats from beyond the boundaries of reality itself. The Aegis Protocol began broadcasting a message to every inhabited world in the galaxy, transmitted through the hidden network that had operated in secret for 10 millennia. The message was simple but transformative. Humanity was no longer hiding. Across hundreds of star systems, the revelation rippled through galactic civilization like a shockwave. Species that had considered humans to be harmless neighbors suddenly understood that they had been protected by a guardian force beyond their comprehension. Governments that had made policy decisions without human input realized that human observers had been quietly guiding their choices for centuries. But perhaps the most important change was in humanity itself. For the first time in 10,000 years, humans could openly acknowledge their true heritage and capabilities. The genetic memories that had been suppressed for millennia began to resurface as dormant neural pathways reactivated throughout the human population. Dr. Hawthorne felt the change in her own mind as ancient knowledge became accessible. Scientific principles that had seemed impossibly complex suddenly made perfect sense. Technologies that had appeared magical were revealed as logical applications of physics that her ancestors had mastered long ago. "We're remembering," she whispered. "We're remembering who we really are." The prototype device had completed its transformation, revealing itself as a cathedral-sized construct that existed partially outside normal space. Within its crystalline chambers, Admiral Thorne's consciousness prepared for its next phase of existence. "My duty as protector is fulfilled," he announced, "but my duty as teacher has just begun. Humanity must reclaim its birthright, and the galaxy must prepare for the storm that approaches from beyond the rim." As the Imperial fleet underwent its transformation from conqueror to protector, Admiral Vextar found himself experiencing something he had never felt before: genuine respect for another species. The humans had possessed the power to destroy his armada from the moment it appeared, but they had chosen education over annihilation, cooperation over conquest. "Admiral Thorne," Vextar said formally, "the Zephyrian Empire places itself under human guidance for the defense of the galaxy. We pledge our lives to the protection of all sentient species." Similar pledges came from across the galaxy as the truth spread. The Centauri Alliance, the Rigel Confederacy, the Vegan Trade Union, and dozens of smaller civilizations all acknowledged humanity's true role and requested guidance in preparing for the approaching threat. The age of humanity's hidden guardianship was over. The age of open cooperation in the face of cosmic danger had begun. And at the center of it all, ancient human technology stood ready to teach the galaxy that some threats required more than courage to face. They required the combined wisdom, strength, and determination of every thinking being willing to stand against the darkness. The prototype's final act was to establish permanent communication with every human colony throughout the galaxy, awakening dormant installations that had waited 10,000 years for this moment. Humanity's children could finally come home to the stars their ancestors had once ruled, not as conquerors, but as the guardians they had always been meant to be. In the end, Admiral Vextar's mighty armada had accomplished something far greater than conquest. It had awakened humanity's true destiny and united the galaxy against the darkness that approached from beyond the edge of reality itself.